Hello everyone, and yes, there has been another long gap between videos, which is why I'm popping on today, because I know that I've been promising for ages now to do my tarot and numbers series, and I'm still promising I am going to do it. I've been working on it, I've been preparing for it, it's just not quite ready yet. But look, on my newly installed whiteboard, if I just tilt the camera up, you can see tarot and number series coming soon, and because I've written it on the whiteboard, it must be true. Yeah, that's how this works. Also, some other proof that I've been working on it. Look, this video series is going to involve giant Rider-Waite tarot cards and coloured pens. All will be revealed, but I have been working on it. It's just not there yet. So, what I thought I would do is a bit of a stopgap video just to say hello and to reassure myself that I've not completely forgotten how to do videos and how to make videos. And partly, I have to confess, it's because I've been working on the video series and doing a lot of reading to prepare myself for this, and a lot of thinking, and there's been a lot of other things going on, I haven't quite been in the mind space to do this properly. So, and I don't want to do it half-heartedly, so I've given myself a bit of space to prepare, and I'll get to it very soon. So I thought I needed a way into making a video that wasn't going to be too onerous, wasn't going to be too complicated, and I think I found that with this tag, because Jennifer over at WyllowWynd, the Thrifty witch, has put together a very interesting tag, not particularly tarot related, so it's really for anyone who wants to do this, and it's called 100 Questions No One Ever Asks, and it is exactly what it says. It's 100 questions. Some of which I think have probably been asked before, but some I definitely haven't. Like, I've never been asked, would you rather be attacked by a big bear or a swarm of bees? But I'm about to be asked that. So what I thought I would do is just respond to these questions as quickly as I can. We're already about 2 and a bit minutes in. There are 100 questions. I don't want to spend too long on each one, so I'm going to try and do this in a kind of guerrilla fashion. G-U-E-R-I-L-L-A, not gorilla as in, you know, the ape kind of thing. So in and out, quick as I can, and maybe with one or two of the questions I might, you know, extemporize a bit. But I'll try not to do that for all 100 of them, or we'll be here forever. Yeah, the way this works is basically you just respond to the questions, and then I think at the end you're meant to tag somebody else, but I'm just going to say that anyone who wants to do this, please do it. Quite a few of the responses are out already and very interesting to watch. Great way to get to know people on YouTube. So without further ado, let's begin. So 100 questions no one ever asks. Do you sleep with your closet doors open or closed? Closed, because I do not want monster eyes peering out at me. Actually, we're straight into an anecdote. There was one night I remember being in the house on my own. This is several years ago, and I was sitting up in bed reading, and it was night time, and I was just getting ready to get to sleep, and there's nobody else in the house, and at this point we didn't have any pets, and I suddenly became aware of a noise in the bedroom, and I wasn't quite sure where it was coming from, but it seemed to be coming from over in the direction of the wardrobe in the room. And then to my horror, as I sat there in bed and watched, the wardrobe doors slowly began to open, and then suddenly opened, and out came a beanbag which had been at the top of the shelf in the wardrobe and had fallen out. And you know, to say that I nearly laid an egg doesn't come close. I nearly laid the egg, the chicken, the barn, the farmyard, and old MacDonald and all. It was a terrifying moment. So now, and keeping the doors closed didn't stop that happening, but I definitely sleep with my closet doors closed. That was question 1. Question 2, do you take the shampoos and conditioner bottles from hotels? No, because normally they smell vile, and I don't like artificial smells, so unless they're like, you know, watermelon and kumquat, made from real watermelons and kumquats, I'm not interested. Do you sleep with your sheets tucked in or out? I don't really sleep with sheets. I sleep with a duvet, and it's definitely out and about and free, and I usually end up with it on the floor anyway, particularly in the summer, because I don't like things on me when I'm sleeping. Well, that depends. Oh, hang on, where are we? Have you stolen a street sign before? No, I have not, but a friend of mine has stolen a sign for me, and I still have it. In fact, if I had spotted this question, I would have found it. I don't know where it is. About 20 years ago, I went to the re-premiere of the film Grease, because it was re-released for its 20th anniversary. It's the 40th anniversary this year, I think. Yes, this year. And 20 years ago, it was re-released to cinemas. And in London, there was a premiere event and a party at the premiere event. Tickets were like 100 quid, so I spent 100 quid on a ticket, which was more than I could afford at the time. But it was to raise money for Elton John's AIDS Foundation, so it was a good cause. And at the party and at the premiere was Olivia Newton-John, who is one of my idols. So I had to go and see her, and it was an amazing event, really great fun. And I got to briefly meet her and got my picture taken with her, which happened again a few years later. But anyway, that's another story. And she was at the party and I was there with my friend. And when the party was ending, my friend said, "I'm going to get you a souvenir." And to my horror, he walked right over to the table where Olivia Newton-John had been sitting with her entourage, and he took from the table this sign that said "Reserved Olivia Newton-John." It wasn't a very ornate sign, it was just like a printed sign in a Perspex folder, printed out on Word, but nonetheless it was the sign that had reserved her table at this major event. And he stole it and he gave it to me, and I've still got it somewhere. So that's, I didn't steal the sign, but he did. And it wasn't a street sign, it was an ONJ sign. Question 5. Do you like to use post-it notes? No, because I'm always losing them and they get stuck to the wrong things. And when I use post-it notes, I usually come home from work and discover that there's a post-it note stuck on me somewhere. So they don't work for me. Do you cut out coupons but then never use them? I usually forget to even cut out coupons, but if I do remember, then yes, I forget to use them quite often. Would you rather be attacked by a big bear or a swarm of bees? I told you I would be asked that question. I think probably bees, because I think you could probably outrun bees. Well, could you? Well, also bees are kind of friendly unless you really aggravate them, so I would probably say bees on the basis that if I laid really still and just projected positive energy, they might calm down, whereas I don't think a bear would. I think it would just eat you. Where are we? Do you have freckles? Yes, but I'm not telling you where. Do you always smile for pictures? Yes, unless I'm told not to, or it's a very serious occasion, then I'll not smile. But I do tend to just smile. If somebody points a camera at me, I'll just, you know, out come the teeth. Not out come the teeth, but out come the teeth. What is your biggest pet peeve? Well, apart from the usual things of people who are unkind and judgmental, which just, you know, why? The thing that really pees me off is people who stop at the top of an escalator. You know, if you're on an escalator and you're going up the escalator and somebody's in front of you, and then they get to the top, and instead of stepping away from the top of the escalator so you can get off, they just stop, and then it feels like you're going to be in a big pile up and everyone's going to fall down the escalator. That hacks me off. And it's the same when people step out of shop doors and just stop, and so yeah, that's my pet peeve. Can you tell? Do you ever count your steps when you walk? I did once when I was trying to decide whether to buy one of these step counter things for fitness, but I kept losing count, so I didn't do that for very long. Have you peed in the woods? Of course I have. Have you ever pooped in the woods? Of course not! That's disgusting! And if I was in the woods and needed to make use of facilities, well, I just find a hotel by the second night. Do you ever dance even if there's no music playing? Yes I do. But that's usually because there's music playing in my head. Can you hear it? Can you hear the music? Do you chew your pens and pencils? No, not now. I used to, but not now. How many people have you slept with this week? 1. But I'm not saying which one. What size is your bed? I think it's king size. It's a double, but I think it's king size. What is your song of the week? Well, actually, I'm doing the 10 albums a day challenge that Chase Howells you know, nominated me to do. And a song that's been going around in my head this week is a song by the band Simple Minds, because I chose their New Gold Dream album as one of my albums this week. And the song that's been going around in my head is Someone Somewhere in Summertime, which is a great song, and I'll link it below if I remember to do that so you can hear it too. Is it okay for guys to wear pink? Of course it is. In fact, it's fabulous. Do you still watch cartoons? Yes, I do sometimes. I recently, not so much a cartoon, but I recently discovered, or rediscovered, a children's animated series from the 60s in the UK called The Pogles. The original series of which was apparently, it featured this kind of scary witch. I'll try and link them below as well if I remember. And it was, when it was recommissioned, they were recommissioning it for a younger audience, and they were told to tone it down because it was a bit scary. And it is quite scary. The Witch is really quite scary. So I love that kind of thing. What is your least favourite movie? That's hard for me to say, because I tend, if I don't like a movie, to just stop watching it, or I'll walk out of the cinema if I'm really not enjoying it. I suppose what springs to mind is The Hobbit. I loved the Lord of the Rings films. I loved the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit books. I thought the Hobbit, the recent live action Hobbit film, was just awful. It was over bloated, it was stretched, it was, you know, when you consider that each volume of the 3 volumes of Lord of the Rings is bigger than the single volume of the Hobbit, and they each got a film each, and yet the Hobbit, which was smaller than all of them, got 3 films. It's just not, it's not a big enough story for 3 films. So it really annoyed me. It was stretched beyond belief. Where would you bury hidden treasure if you had some? Not telling, because why would I tell? Because then you'll come and dig my garden up. Oh, did I just give it away? It just came out there, the garden. I don't know where I'd bury treasure, hidden treasure. Where would you bury hidden treasure if you had some? Now I'm thinking, how would I know that I had some if it was hidden? Anyway, what do you drink with dinner? Well, I drink what I'm drinking now, which is a mixture of water and sugar-free, stevia-sweetened lemonade, because I know that I should drink more water, but I don't really like the taste of water, unless I'm really gasping with thirst. But just remembering to drink water, I tend not to. Whereas I like the taste of that. What do you dip a chicken nugget in? Nothing. I don't eat chicken nuggets. I don't like chicken nuggets. I don't like anything deep fried and breadcrumbed. Ugh. What is your favourite food? I love fruit, but fruit, I would probably not eat fruit on its own. I'd always have it as part of a meal or a snack with something a bit more substantial. So if it was a meal, I love lamb. I like lamb and I like fish. But I'll say fruit. I love fruit. I do love fruit. What movies could you watch over and over again and still love? Well, Grease is one. As I said, I went to the re-premiere. I'm a big fan of Olivia Newton-John. When I first discovered Grease, I got it out of the local video shop back in the days where we had, you know, video recorders and all that. And in fact, I rented it out so many times and watched it so many times, the tape broke and they had to replace it. I think I got it out something like 14 times in a row. I was obsessed. The Wizard of Oz, I love. That used to be on every Christmas, and yeah, I still love that film. Lord of the Rings, I already mentioned. I suppose that's one that I could add. I'm trying to think any others. I actually like thrillers and suspense films, and quite often once you've watched them and you know what happens, you don't want to watch them anymore. So so I rarely watch films over and over again, but yeah, I would, if Grease is on, and especially if there's friends there and we can watch it together, or The Wizard of Oz, or Lord of the Rings, then I would watch all of those. Last person that you kissed, or who kissed you, that would be my partner, Pete, or maybe it was Maya, my cat. Both of them have kissed me today, because today is my birthday, so I've had birthday kisses today. Were you ever a boy or a girl scout? Briefly I was, but it wasn't really for me. I remember going camping and not really enjoying it, and I also remember once we had this one session where we learned how to gut a fish, skin a rabbit, and pluck and prepare a pheasant. Yeah, it was never really my thing. I did learn first aid at the Scouts, so that was useful. That was very useful. I fainted in one of the first aid classes, but I learned something. Would you ever strip or pose nude in a magazine? Probably not, but not because I'm a prude or anything. I don't object to nudity, it's just that I'd be too self-conscious. I once was asked to pose for a safe sex leaflet because I volunteered for an LGBT centre in a city that I used to live in, and somebody there was designing a safer sex campaign, and I got involved and did a bit of leaflet design, and I designed this leaflet which was going to involve it was going to involve angels and devils in various stages of undress and doing suggestive things in bathtubs. I can't quite remember it now, but it was an excellent idea, I'm sure. And anyway, I was asked if I would consider posing as one of the angels or devils, but I said no, partly because I just thought I can't show that to my mother. When was the last time you wrote a letter to someone on paper? Probably within the last 6 months at work, but I don't do that very often. Can you change the oil in a car? Well, I can put oil into a car. Do you take oil out of a car? I suppose you do, you drain it, don't you? I'm sure I could if I googled how to do it. Have you ever gotten a speeding ticket? Yes, I have. 3 times, but not for a long time, I have to say, so touch wood, I'm not going to get one soon. Have you ever run out of gas, fuel, I guess, in the car? No, I never have. I've come close a couple of times, but I've never done it. What's your favourite kind of sandwich? One without bread? I don't like sandwiches. Best thing to eat for breakfast? Eggs, like an omelette or scrambled egg, or porridge, or both if you're feeling really hungry. What is your usual bed time? Well, I usually aim, it should be 10 o'clock based on when I get up, but I usually end up aiming for 11 o'clock, and in reality it's usually about 12 o'clock that I turn the light out. And last night it was about 1 AM before I actually did it, so I'm not very good at bedtimes. Are you lazy? I'm not lazy. I can be, but I'm not naturally lazy. I think it's just that I sometimes do have down periods in terms of low energy periods, and that's usually when I've been working really hard and I've been kind of flying at something, and then I just crash out. But in my experience, what I usually find is that if I'm feeling lazy and I'm putting off doing something, it's usually because I'm experiencing some kind of resistance to the idea of doing that thing, or some kind of obstacle. When you were a kid, what did you dress up as for Halloween? Various things. I dressed up as a ghost, I've been a vampire. I used to like dressing up as I loved witches, so I was a witch once. I think that caused some raised eyebrows. I was a little cross-dressing witch, effectively. I was once a wee Willy Winky, and I had my kind of, you know, I think I had like a nightgown made out of a sheet or something with blue stripes and a candlestick. I love Halloween. Halloween is my favourite festival of the year. Even apart from all the paraphernalia around it, there is something genuinely magical and mysterious about Halloween for me. And in Scotland, where I grew up and where I was born and raised, because I am in fact Scottish, and I moved away when I was about 22, Halloween was much bigger there than I think it ever was in England, and not because it had been influenced by American trick-or-treating, but the other way. In fact, the tradition of dressing up originated in Celtic countries and was known as guising. So when I was a kid, we went out guising, and the way that worked, well, first of all, we didn't have pumpkins then, so we made lanterns out of turnips, and you know, they were a bugger to hack into, really difficult to hack into, because they were very hard. But I remember my dad making me turnip lanterns, and then I eventually made them, I think. But it took a long time to do because you had to basically chisel the stuff out of the turnip. But they looked great. My parents wouldn't let me have a proper candle in them in case, I think they thought I was going to set fire to myself or the whole of the town. So they used to put a battery operated torch. So I had this turnip with a battery operated torch, and that was my jack-o'-lantern. But guising involved not just dressing up and knocking on people's doors and being given a gift. You had to do something for it. So you had to perform, or you had to, you know, so I would play the recorder, Skyboat song, or I would tell a joke, and some people would sing or dance and so on. And it was great. I have very happy memories of that. And in fact, when I first moved down to England and had my first Halloween here, I remember really looking forward to it. I was in the house I was renting, and I was waiting for the geysers to come round, and there was a knock at the door, and I opened the door, and all these little ghosts and goblins outside, all these kids dressed up, and and of course I said, come in, and invited them into the house, and they all took a step back and looked horrified, because here was this strange man inviting them into his house, which was a bit odd. Not odd to me from where I'd come from, but was odd for them. And so they all looked at me slightly alarmed, and I said, oh well, you don't need to come in, you can stay on the doorstep and do what you're going to do. So what have you got for me? What are you going to do? Are you going to tell me a joke? Are you going to sing a song? And they all just looked at me as if, who is this lunatic? And just put their hands out and said, trick or treat. So yeah, that's how I learned that Halloween is not the same here as it was in Scotland. So, what is your Chinese astrological sign? It is the ox. How many languages can you speak? Only the one, English, to my shame. Do you have any magazine subscriptions? No, I don't. Which are better, Legos or Lincoln Logs? I have never heard of Lincoln Logs, so I think it's got to be Lego. Are you stubborn? No. And you're not going to change my opinion on that. I can be stubborn. My dad used to describe, if I was having an argument with my mum, who is also quite stubborn, my dad would describe us as being the irresistible force versus the immovable object. I'm not sure which one I was. Who is better, Lino or Letterman? I'm more familiar with Letterman, but we didn't really get either of them over here, not on mainstream TV anyway, and neither of them were as good as Michael Parkinson or Terry Wogan, or even Graham Norton, all of whom are interviewers over here, or were. Do you ever watch soap operas? Not now. I used to watch Coronation Street, but not now. Are you afraid of heights? Yes, but only if I'm not strapped in. I'd rather be strapped in really high up in a roller coaster than not strapped in up a very short ladder, if you know what I mean. Do you sing in the car? Well, I open my mouth and noises come out. I'm not sure I'd call it singing. Do you sing in the shower? Please see above. Do you dance in the car? It has been known. I usually do that until I notice that somebody's watching me, and then I stop. Have you ever used a gun? That's question 50, so we're halfway. Have you ever used a gun? Only at a fairground or toy guns. So let's see if we can get through the second half quicker. So last time you got a portrait taken by a photographer, probably about 3 or 4 years ago for work. Do you think musicals are cheesy? Sometimes. I like some musicals, but they're not my choice of theatrical experience. I tend to like some of the music from musicals isolated from the musical itself. Is Christmas stressful? It can be. I love it, and I love going to see my family. For me, part of the stress is being organised enough, because I usually go up, well, I always go up to Scotland where my parents are to see them, and I love doing that. But it means I have to be kind of organised ahead of time. But what I find generally is that other people getting stressed is what stresses me out. I get stressed about the fact that they're stressed, but generally I don't find it stressful. Ever eat a pierogi? Well, not knowingly, because I don't know what a pierogi is. Favourite type of fruit pie? One without pastry. I don't like pastry. Apple or cherry, I suppose, without the pastry. Occupations that you wanted to be when you were a kid. An astronaut, which I have not become, and a writer, which I have become. By the way, in case you didn't know, I wrote a book on how to find your own best occupation. See my other videos. Do you believe in ghosts? I can't really give a simple answer to this, because I don't necessarily believe in the explanation of disembodied spirits floating around ghosts, but I believe in energy imprints. I believe that time isn't necessarily linear, and we might be picking up on things from other times, etc. And I saw a ghost once, or I saw something that felt like a ghost. I woke up once in my bedroom in a house that I was renting, and was just, before I opened my eyes, I was aware that I was being watched. but it was a feeling of great benevolence. There wasn't any malice in it. And when I opened my eyes, I could see standing in the corner of the room, this, in shadow, so it's all very vague, a hooded figure. And it was vivid enough that I actually said hello, and it moved out of the corner of the room and out the door and down the hall. And then I went back to sleep, and then of course I woke up and thought, did that happen or was it a dream? But it still, to this day, doesn't feel as though it was a dream. It feels like it was more real than a dream. Have you ever had or ever have a deja vu feeling? Yes, and sometimes very strongly. Do you take a vitamin daily? I do at the moment. I am taking a vitamin at the moment, but it's not a replacement for healthy eating. I wrote a book about healthy eating too. See my other videos. This is me slipping in a plug for my books. Do you wear slippers? In fact, yes. I'm not going to try and show you them on my foot because I'll probably dislocate my back, but I am actually, they're very scruffy. Look at that, they've got paint on them and everything. I do wear slippers at home and sometimes in the garden. Do you wear a bathrobe? Yes, sometimes. What do you wear to bed? A smile. No, usually t-shirts and boxers. What was your first concert? I honestly can't remember. I think it was, Elaine, I'm just conscious, it looks like steam is coming out of my head. Just, hang on, can I do this? It looks like steam is coming out of my ear. That is amazing. Look at that. Anyway, what was your first concert? Can't remember. Elaine Page, I think. Walmart, Target or Kmart? None of the above. We don't really have them here. Sainsbury's. Nike or Adidas? Neither. I don't really wear those brands. Cheetos or Fritos? Neither of those. I don't eat them. Peanuts or sunflower seeds? That depends on my mood. I actually prefer pumpkin seeds, toasted with a bit of tamari sauce. Delicious. Ever hear of the group Très Bien? Well, I have now. Ever take dance lessons? Yes, at school I had to learn Scottish country dancing and I really enjoyed it. I haven't done it for years, but I did enjoy it. Is there a profession you picture your future spouse doing? No, I let other people do their own picturing. Not for me to say. Can you curl your tongue? Yes. Have you ever won a spelling bee? No, but I was very good at spelling at school. I don't think we ever had a competition though. Have you ever cried because you were so happy? Yes, I think I've cried at weddings and so on. And sometimes I've cried, you know when you do that kind of hysterical laughing to the point where you actually don't know whether you're crying or laughing? I've done that. I love doing that. Own any record albums? Yes, lots of them, and not because of the vinyl revival. I've still got record albums from when they were big the first time round. Do you own a record player? Yes, I have got a record player, in fact, in this room, just over there. Do you regularly burn incense? Yes, but I tend to, this is what the steam coming out of my ear is, I tend to diffuse oils instead. With incense, I like the smell of incense once it has been burnt and it's left its kind of aroma in the air, but I don't really like it while it's burning. I find it very cloying and it makes me feel kind of like I can't breathe. I'm just amazed at people who do videos, for example. I mean, Simon from Hermit's Cave, I know that sometimes he and others will have an incense stick burning right beside them while they're on camera, which just, I'm in awe of that, because if that was me, I would be coughing and spluttering and collapsing on the floor. Not that I'm a drama queen or anything. Have you ever been in love? Yes, and I still am. Who would you like to see in concert? You know, I've seen most of the people that I would like to see. When I was a kid, I was a big fan of people who either seemed to have sort of gone past the peak of their career, or who were just so remote in terms of not coming to the UK, it just did not seem possible. So Olivia Newton-John, Dolly Parton, they were big, I was a big fan of them. Kate Bush, I loved Nancy Griffith. And then I did see Nancy Griffith first, and then I saw Dolly Parton on a couple of her tours, and then I saw Olivia Newton-John on her UK tour in 2013, which was amazing. That was like after 35 years of waiting to see her. I thought at one point she wouldn't tour again, and she did, and she was just amazing. And I saw Kate Bush twice in her recent well, a few years ago now, her return to the stage, so I'm very lucky. Yeah, what was the last concert you saw? I'm terrible at this kind of thing, I can't remember. I think that might have been Olivia Newton-John at the beginning of last year. I haven't been to a concert for a while. At the beginning of last year she did a tour to promote her album Live On, which is actually an album, it sounds a bit odd, but it's an album about grief, and it's all songs about recovering from grief. It's a very nice album, and it's with two other singer-songwriters, Amy Skye and Beth Nielsen Chapman. And they did this concert in London, and I went to that, and I actually met Olivia Newton-John properly after that concert and got my photo taken with her and got a hug. So that was pretty amazing. Hot tea or cold tea? Hot, but I prefer coffee. Next question, tea or coffee? Coffee. Sugar cookies or snickerdoodles? Neither. I'm not really, they are biscuits, I think. I'm not a biscuity person. I'd rather have ice cream or a cake. Can you swim well? Yes, but I don't do that very often now. I used to be a strong swimmer. I was very late in learning to swim, but I loved it and was good at it. Can you hold your breath without holding your nose? Yes. Are you patient? I can be. It depends though. It depends what it is. I'm not patient with people who are being deliberately obstructive. Then they're likely to get it in the eye. But I'm very patient with people who are trying their best. And I'm patient with situations that you just have got no control over, usually. DJ or band at a wedding? That entirely depends on the music that's being played. I don't mind as long as it's good music. Have you ever won a contest? Yes, I've won a couple of creative writing competitions, and I also won a poster design competition when I was at primary school. I had to design a poster for a pantomime, which I think was called The Amazing Adventures of Sherbert Dip, who was a kind of Sherlock Holmes pastiche, I think. Have you ever had plastic surgery? No. Which are better, black or green olives? Black. Can you knit or crochet? Yes, I could do a little bit of both when I was a kid. My grandmother taught me. I didn't get very far. And she cast on and cast off, so I could do the bit in between but couldn't do the starting or the finishing. But then a couple of years ago I taught myself how to knit. Not very advanced, so just using this sort of knit stitch. I think it's called knit stitch, just a very basic stitch, and I've knitted since then a couple of blankets, several scarves, anything square and rectangular basically. I am going to do more with that, but I was proud to just have been able to do that. Best room for a fireplace? Either a log cabin or an old book-lined study with wood-panelled walls, which I know would be a terrible fire hazard, but it would look great there. Do you want to get married? I would get married, and maybe one day that will come about, but I wouldn't do it just for the sake of being married. I don't have that desire to have a big wedding or any of that kind of stuff, so it would have to be for pragmatic reasons. I don't see marriage as being the thing I need to profess my commitment to my partner. If married, how long have you been married? I'm not married, but I've been with my partner for 21 years this August. Who was your high school crush? I don't know if this means somebody at high school I had a crush on. If it means that, I'm not saying, because they might be watching this. But at high school, I seem to remember having a bit of a soft spot for Corey Haim. Poor Corey Haim. In The Lost Boys. I think that's where I liked him. Do you cry and throw a fit until you get your own way? No. Well, I don't cry anyway. Do you have kids? No, but I've got a cat. Do you want kids? I like kids, but I wouldn't go out of my way to have any. And I think, you know, being gay and in a gay relationship, in order for me to have kids, or us to have kids, it would take a hell of a lot of effort on our part. So it's quite a good test of whether you're really committed to it or not, and I noticed so far we have not got kids. What is your favourite colour? Blue, or anything at that kind of end of the spectrum, bluey, purpley things. Do you miss anyone right now? there are lots of people that I miss, or I would miss if I allowed myself to dwell on their absence. But I generally try to remember good times with people who are no longer here, and to honour the memory of them, and to feel good about the memory of them. But yes, there are times, of course, when I miss people. And who are you going to tag to do this video next? That's question 100. We're finished. I am going to tag you. If you're watching this and you've got a YouTube channel and you want to participate, I'll put the questions below. I'll put a link to the original video from Jennifer at WyllowWynd, the Thrifty Witch's channel below, and I hope you'll join in, because it's quite challenging but fun. So yeah, so that was my 100 questions that no one ever asks, but now they have asked and I have answered, and I'm looking forward to hearing your answers too. Take care everyone, see you soon.